This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss everything in the wide world of sports. As always, I am Ben.
I am Alex.
We are back here on a Monday. We have a very, very busy show for you today, talking a lot of football, as you would expect on a Monday. NFL, college, got to preview Monday Night Football as well. And then we can't go without talking about baseball. We have the divisional series underway. We have one team already through to the championship series after a walk-off win last night. That team is the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm talking about that in the last part of the show. We've got games tonight. We've got to preview pitching matchups. Really important games, too. Some games that could be elimination games. The Giants are facing elimination here at AT&T Park in San Francisco tonight. So we have to talk about some elimination games in baseball.
Did the Red Sox game get postponed to today?
Yes, so that's an elimination game as well. So
also, yeah.
Game 3 of that series with the Indians up 2-0 over Boston. So why don't we start with the NFL, though? We had obviously a full slate of games yesterday, and then we have tonight Monday Night Football. We have the Buccaneers and the Panthers. We'll preview that at the end of the segment. But first, let's just talk about some of these results from yesterday.
Okay. Well, Tom Brady had his first game back after his suspension, of course, and he only came and just happened to throw, 406 yards.
And three scores.
Three scores, all to Martellus Bennett.
Didn't miss a beat.
Yeah, the Patriots have won that one, 33-13. Another injury to the quarterback position for the Browns. Cody Kessler went down, and Charlie Whitehurst took the reins there at quarterback. He threw a couple touchdown passes, so
the Browns are going through quarterbacks as fast as they're going through games.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, never seen I feel like we talk about this every week, but I've never seen an organization with just the worst luck than the Browns. Obviously, a lot of it, like, they draft but just a lot of unfortunate incidents with the Browns.
Yeah, no, I mean, they've had a pretty tough go of things lately, I'll tell you that. Lately, as in, like, the last 15 years, since they kind of came back, The Eagles finally lost this year, their first loss coming off their bye week to the Lions, who were led by 2 touchdown passes by Theo Riddick and a big day from Mr. Stafford. But even though he ended up losing, Carson Wentz did not have a bad game. He threw his first interception on a missile, just a deep, deep ball on the first play after Ryan Matthews fumbled the ball to the Lions to go and get a go-ahead field goal, which was the ultimate winning score there for the Lions. But yeah, it was the first play after they got the ball back to try to score. I mean, they had plenty of time. They had about 40 seconds. All they needed to do was really get realistically like 30 yards, get in field goal range. First play, he throws it really deep, and it's an interception. I mean, I guess that's kind of a rookie growing pain there, I guess. Don't try to get it all in one go. But yeah, they finally have a loss, and the Lions are to 2-3 now currently. The Colts and the Bears had a close one. The Colts came out on top 29-23, led by a pretty big day by T.Y. Hilton. And Frank Gore had a decent day, too, passing some notable names there on the rushing list. Jim Brown, ring any bells? So he passed him on the all-time rushing list.
Uncle, because I'm Ben Brown.
He's my fantasy running back.
He's my dynasty running back in fantasy.
On Madden?
He's my Madden Ultimate Team running back.
They had that for a while, actually.
I know. They have, like, legends and stuff. So. But yeah, T.Y. Hilton, you mentioned, huge day. 10 catches, 171 yards, and a touchdown.
I see the issue, though, for me was there's a Bears team who does not have the defense that they normally have. I mean, Angelique had a good day, 322-2, but he was sacked 5 times. He's been sacked. Before this week, he was sacked 17 times through the first 4 weeks. So 22 times through 5 weeks.
This is literally a team that are carried by one player. This is, I'm not going to say Andrew Luck is the best player in the league, like the person I'm going to compare him to, but this is the LeBron James of football. Carried by one guy. Think about LeBron before he went to Miami, his first stint in Cleveland. He was literally the guy with nobody else around him. That is Andrew Luck on the Colts right now.
T.Y. is pretty good. I feel like T.Y. could exist as a good player on another team also, not like a product of him, you know?
Maybe to a certain extent, I agree. But still, Andrew Luck is literally the LeBron of the NFL because he carries the Colts. I think this is probably the worst roster, with the exception of Andrew Luck, in the entire league.
Worse than the Browns?
I think so. Their defense is definitely worse. Their offensive line is definitely worse.
Yeah.
I think if you put Andrew Luck on the Browns, they're probably a better team than Indianapolis.
All right, well. Yeah, they definitely need to address the defense side of the ball. Can't stop anybody in an offensive line. It feels like they keep addressing, but it's not doing anything for them.
And now you have Brian Hoyer for the Browns. For the Bears, I'm sorry. Had another good game yesterday. He threw he's just 3 yards shy of 400 yards. So 397, 2 touchdowns.
He's playing really well.
Do you think he stays the starting quarterback when Jay Cutler comes back with his thumb injury?
Yeah, I do. I mean, because Jay didn't win him any games. Brian's the one that won him a game. I mean, Hoyer he has shown in the past that you have to really believe in him to play him because sometimes he'll let you down.
Think about the playoffs last year with the Texans.
Yeah, exactly. And he definitely had more of a team around him defensively at least, and a little bit here and there. Better, probably not as good of an offense, I would say. I mean, if you had the offense that Houston has today, then maybe we'd be talking something different. But he didn't have an amazing offense. But the Bears don't have much. They're not giving him much either. So he's definitely playing well. I mean, I think he's had the luxury of playing a couple of bad teams also, and a lot of games where they have to keep trying to score because, again, they don't have a defense. So I personally would keep starting Hoyer. I would, as of right now. I mean, Cutler, he didn't win any games. He wasn't lighting it up before he got hurt. So keep Hoyer in until he proves you otherwise, until he proves that he needs to be taken out.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like both guys, you really know what to expect from them. So I don't think either of them are really the future of the Chicago Bears.
No.
I think I probably still go with Cutler, though. I realize saying this is kind of going out on a limb here, but I think I have a little more trust in Cutler than I do Hoyer. I think he has a little more
I don't know what he's done lately
production-wise.
to
I see what you're saying, and Hoyer's playing great. So,
but
but
I think
we'll
you go with the
have
hot
to wait
hand,
and see.
especially when you're playing this badly.
We'll have to monitor it.
All right, moving to another game, and the Titans defeating the Dolphins on the road 30-17, led by Marcus Mariota's 4 scores. Pretty good day for him. He had what I imagine was a quarterback design run. It was a play action at first, and he rolled out. I thought it was just kind of a design kind of rollout pass, and he looks quick sometimes. He's a quick
really
fella.
shifty guy. He's really quick, really explosive. It's good to see him having a good game because I feel like through this year he's really disappointed. And the guy who really played well again yesterday was DeMarco Murray, 121 yards rushing. He's been absolute stud in Tennessee this season. And the Dolphins at 1-4 now, they are just I'd say they're one of the worst teams in the league as well. They had a week and a half to prepare for this game, having played the previous Thursday against Cincinnati, and they look terrible at home. The Ryan Tannehill and Adam Gase experiment is not working. Ryan Tannehill, 191 yards and 2 interceptions.
Yeah, not a great running day. 51 as a team, led by 42 from Jay Ajayi. I mean, not much in terms of your rushing yardage there. And I did want to mention, of the 4 scores he had, 3 of them were passing for Mariota, only 163 yards through the air, only 9 incompletions, though 20 for 29. And then, like you said, DeMarco Murray, 120 yards and no touchdowns. Mariota added 60 on the ground with 1 score as well. Yeah, the Dolphins' offense is pretty bad lately. Like you said, 149 yards passing, 2 interceptions. He was sacked 6 times for minus 42 yards, which almost completely negates the 42 yards in which Jay Ajayi would have gained in terms of rushing yards if that was relevant to your rushing yards and not your passing yards. But if you think about it in terms of literal yardage, you literally negated everything he did in that sense. Devontae Parker, 2 for 70. He had 1 catch for 50, so if you kind of look at it that way, not an amazing day. The receiver Williams had 1 catch for 58, which was 58 yards of his 67 receiving yards on 2 receptions. So, again, 2 long catches for the receivers. Otherwise, you're looking at 20 yards and 19 yards, respectively, or 11 yards. Not great from their receivers, in my opinion. So, this Dolphins team really has to start looking at what the problem is, whether it's their starter, whether it's their offensive coordinator, whether it's their head coach. It's a tough year for Gase already, and it's his first year, so it can go badly, and that's how football is. So they really need to get something going right, because like you said, as of right now, they're 1-4.
Yeah, and the Patriots look like the best team in the league. So
there's a few teams this week that look like the best team in the league, which
yeah,
we'll get
to
into
that.
when we mention the Patriots being one of them.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah, we said them already. But moving to some more games, the Redskins defeated the Ravens 16-10 to move to 3-2 on the year, as well as the Ravens. They're 3-2. Not an amazing game by any stretch. Most of the scoring was in the first half. Touchdown and a field goal from the Ravens, and 2 field goals from. Actually, excuse me. It was a touchdown from the Redskins, but they missed their extra point. And then they had a touchdown and a field goal in the third. But Cousins, not a bad day. 29-41, 260 and 1. Flacco, decent day, 210 and 1. Justin Tucker attempted a fake kick pass. Didn't go great for them. Didn't complete it, Not an amazing day, really, from the Redskins offense. 60 yards rushing. Again, only 260. Well, I mean, that's pretty good still from your passing game, but 1-1 in terms of the touchdown to interceptions. Decent day offensively for the Ravens. Again, they had 210 yards passing from Flacco, and then they added 118 yards on the ground, mostly from Terrence West, 95 from him. Just kind of one of those more boring games.
Yeah, definitely a defensive struggle, and the Ravens actually this morning fired their offensive coordinator, Mark Trestman.
Yes, sir. Former Bears coach.
Yes, and the last time the Ravens fired their offensive coordinator was Cam Cameron, and that year they went on to win the Super Bowl. So,
funny enough, it was also after a loss to the Redskins.
Is this like deja vu? Are we going to see the Ravens winning the Super Bowl?
I don't think so.
I mean, I definitely think the Niners are going to get there, who they beat the first time. So.
Yeah, and Beyonce's doing the halftime show good.
And the lights are going to go out at the event. So
the Superdome. Yeah,
no, but
Houston Niners aren't making it. So that's 2 of the 3. Out. You're out.
No, but the Ravens. I mean, sitting at 3-2 is still not terrible. But I have not been convinced and sold on them all year long, so I was not surprised that the Redskins went in to Baltimore and beat the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues with both of those teams, but I think a lot of it's the defense for the Ravens. It's weird. For a long time, the AFC North was kind of the black and blue, the defensive division in football, the real strong defensive division, with the Steelers and the Ravens and the Bengals, and even the Browns when they were bad had decent defenses. But not much lately. The Steelers' defense has lack of turnovers. And there's no interceptions from corners this year. Of the 3 they have, they're all linebackers. Not amazing turnovers. The Ravens are giving up a lot of yards. The Bengals have not done great on the defense side of the ball. They're probably the more consistent team so far through the year. And then the Browns, again, not great, but not a horrible defense. The Ravens is just not the same as it was in that Cam Cameron year. At least they had a good defense that year, and then they turned it around, of course. But it remains to be seen what happens with them. Moving to the game in which we mentioned the Super Bowl this year, where it is going to be happening, and that is NRG Stadium. The Texans was actually on the road facing off against the Vikings in their new stadium, US Bank Stadium. The Vikings stayed undefeated in this one, 5-0, in what just was a dominating game, 31-13 in favor of the Vikings. They scored on offense, of course, but also on special teams. I don't think they scored on defense. I know I love those games where you score on every facet of the game, offense, defense, and special teams. But they had a 79-yard punt return there by, I believe, Sherrills was the one responsible for it. That man is fast. Bradford's looking good again. He threw for a total of 271 and 2, only taking 2 sacks, which is not bad for a team that has lost a lot of starting offensive linemen. Matt Asiata, 55 yards and a touchdown, 36 yards from Jarrett McKinnon. So not amazing. 96 as a team. Remains to be seen how they move from there. But a decent day receiving from a receiver that not many people know. Adam Thielen, 7 receptions, 127 yards, and a score.
Really stepping up with Stephon Diggs out of the lineup. Stephon Diggs did not play yesterday. Vikings defense continues to look just so dominant. 5-0, the lone undefeated team in the league. Definitely look like the best. NFC team right now.
Yeah, they definitely do look like the best NFC team. They are a Super Bowl favorite as well. As we said, we mentioned teams that look like, at times this weekend had looked like the best in the league. And then we have another one coming up here in a minute. Osweiler, not a great day for him. 184 yards, a touchdown, and an interception each. He was sacked 4 times for minus 29 yards. Only 59 yards rushing as a team. You went and spent all the money on Lamar Miller, and he was responsible for 8 carries for 20 yards. Long of 4.
And when you're down so early, so quickly, the running game kind of gets taken out of the game
so always
plan,
something to keep an eye on. Look at that. DeAndre Hopkins had a score, but it was in garbage time. So, off day for him as well. Their leading receiver was C.J. Fedorowicz, tight end there. Not an amazing tight end by any stretch of the imagination, so it's not like he took the game over. It's just you get what you get,
I mean, I feel like he's the next Gronkowski, Fedorowicz, so.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Okay,
let's
move on.
Moving to the Jets-Steelers game. The Steelers won this one at home, 31-13 over the Jets, currently moving to 4-1 and the number 1 seed in the AFC. Just behind them are the Broncos and the Raiders, which we'll get to.
Well, it's only week 5.
It's only week 5, of course, but with the way some of these teams are playing, it's impressive.
Yeah, a lot of good teams in the AFC, a lot of impressive records, which we will get to, as you mentioned.
But yes, like I said, the Steelers handle this one at home with a lot of people on their defense not playing. You have Ryan Shazier out, starting center. I can't think of his name, so I'm going to skip it. Hayward left the game with an injury. You have a decent amount of players that were missing time, and they played well. Roethlisberger, again, great game, 380 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. In the last 2 games, he has over close to 800 yards and 9 scores. He's playing pretty great. Decent day from Le'Veon Bell on the ground, 66 yards, but he added a nice ringing 88 yards in the air. Antonio Brown doing Antonio Brown things, 9 for 78 and 1. Sammy Coates, 6 for 139 and 2. And, man, this guy could have had over 200 yards. He's dropping passes left and right. It's like he can only catch long balls. He had a 72-yard touchdown score to open the game, and then I think he dropped his next 5. And there was one of the ones where it's like,
I think he needs to coat his hand with some stickum.
That's funny, man. You ever see the kind of routes on the goal line where it just opens up like right in the middle? It's one of those like kind of hop passes almost. Like those.
Yeah, definitely.
So Ben will do that a lot where he'll because he's so tall, he'll just kind of read it and then just kind of lift and over the top. Right in Sammy's hands, literally from the 2-yard line to the goal line, and Sammy dropped it. So something he's got to work on there, but he had a very good game. Yeah, 6 for 139. Again, a lot of that came from one big catch, 72-yarder for the score. But, he played well, and he's just, and what Antonio does, Antonio's going to do. But Roethlisberger's playing great. 7 different receivers, 6 different receivers responsible for at least a reception. That's, that's pretty good. And then if you look at the Jets, they actually had even more. They had what looks like 8 with a reception. Brandon Marshall had a decent day, 8 for 114 and a touchdown. He actually didn't have a pick this game.
But, yeah, the big story is the Jets are 1-4.
Yeah.
So I think you can really count them out of the playoffs now.
Yeah, there's not many teams I don't know if ever have got to the playoffs with a 1-4 record. Fitzpatrick played okay, 255 and 1. Again, didn't throw an interception, but, I guess he could take a week off after throwing 9 in 2 weeks. So, at least you have that to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah, he still leads the league in them, so.
One thing that was impressive to me is Ryan Shazier, again, was out of this game. His backup, Vince Williams, who I've always liked out of Florida State, just happened to, lead the team in tackles in the last 2 weeks. He had 12 and 1 last week in terms of tackle sacks, and then 9 and 1 with 3 tackle for losses this week. It was a very good performance from him, and again, the defense played well. They really did. And interesting to see. This is definitely one of the teams that looks like one of the best teams in the AFC for sure, but the NFL also. They're going to be right up there in a lot of people's rankings this week.
Definitely.
Moving to the afternoon games, the Falcons defeated the Broncos. No longer are they undefeated. The first start of Paxton Lynch's young career. The Falcons have been, I think, they've now become the 3rd team to beat the back-to-back Super Bowl participants in back-to-back weeks in NFL history. They won this one 23-16 on 267 yards and 1 touchdown passing from Matt Ryan, 88 yards and a score on the ground from Devontae Freeman, and 4 receptions for 132 yards, from their other running back, Tevin Coleman, who also had a touchdown there. Julio Jones, quiet day. 2 for 29. Not amazing by any means.
It's
Facts-
definitely
go ahead.
it's definitely these running backs for Atlanta. The
Oh, yeah.
storyline, both of them, Freeman and Coleman, playing so well all year long. It seems like one of them will do great receiving, and one of them will do great running back and forth. I'm surprised that they don't go with more like 2-back sets because both of them are so dangerous
I used to
now.
say the same thing about last year when Le'Veon came back, and why wouldn't they do that with D'Angelo? And we've seen it a few times this year, whether he's in the slot or they're both in the backfield or whatever. But I agree with you because I feel like that would just put a lot of question into the defensive, coordinator's head in terms of, oh man, what are the possibilities that they can do now that they're both in the backfield? And then
Definitely, I would definitely look at that. Paxton Lynch,
Yep.
first start as you mentioned, he looked every bit like a rookie. 223, a touchdown, an interception. He got sacked 6 times. He also lost 2 fumbles. He looked every bit like a rookie quarterback making his first career start. So
Yeah, and then the Atlanta Falcons defense, I forget which player said it, but he did say that, they kind of game planned for the way he plays the entire week. They know he likes to roll out to his right, so they prepared for that, and they kind of limited him in what he could do. Only 6 rushes for 18 yards for him in that aspect. Not an amazing day from the offense, Your contributors contributed. Sanders had 80 yards receiving. Demaryius Thomas 49-1. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they move forward from here. If Simeon's going to start next week, or if he's still on the cusp, if they deem what Lynch did in this game worthy enough to start him again.
yeah, the Broncos are on a short week. They're going to be playing Thursday against San Diego. So Simeon
sir.
missed the game with a shoulder injury. Reports are that he was really close to playing, so we'll have to see if he'll be ready 3 days from now in a short week. Because it seems like the Broncos are definitely more content, probably with Trevor Simeon, 4-0, played really well, as opposed to Paxton Lynch, who did not have his best start yesterday. So,
All right, moving to the Bengals and the Cowboys. The Bengals lost this one on the road, 28-14 in favor of the Cowboys, who are now also 4-1. I'll get to the question in a minute. Dak Prescott had another pretty good day, 227 yards through the air and 1 touchdown. Passing Ezekiel Elliott 134 yards and 2 scores. It currently leads the league in rushing yards. Not much from Dak, 7 for 4. So clearly he wasn't really trying to run the ball. Did have a score though, so he's responsible for 2 scores yet again. Decent day receiving for Tramon Williams, 70 yards. No touchdowns to speak of. He moved to the Bengals, whose offense was playing well. 269-2. Not much from the running game, really. Dalton added 34 yards on the ground. LaFell had probably his best game as a Bengal, 68 yards receiving and 2 scores, both of which Dalton had. With the Cowboys playing like they are, you mentioned with Cutler coming back to get the starting gig, do you think they give the job back to Romo, or you think Dak holds on to it?
the Cowboys said that when Romo is due back, which is projected to be after their bye week in Week 8, that Tony Romo is going to be their starting quarterback. Now, I would start Dak Prescott. If it is not broken, don't fix it. Dak Prescott is yet to throw an interception through 5 games. He's playing really efficient. I think he adds an element with his ability to run the ball. Think about it. He had a touchdown yesterday. He had a rushing touchdown against Washington. They're playing great. Terrence Williams not going out of bounds is the one thing that has given them a loss this year, and that was in Week 1. So you look at this team, and you could honestly say they could be 5-0 still. And I realize Tony Romo, what he's done for the last 10 years, what kind of player he is. But I would say stick with Prescott. Prescott is literally your future. Tony Romo is literally just a time gap between Prescott being ready, and I'd say he's ready now. I've been really impressed with him. He's not doing anything outstanding. He's not doing anything spectacular. But with Dak Prescott, what he's not doing is turning the ball over.
Yeah.
And that's what's important, and that's the one thing Tony Romo has not been able to do his whole career in Dallas. He's always been that guy, 4th quarter, late drive, turns it over, makes a bad pass, gets injured. Dak Prescott's not doing any of that right now, so why would you go away from that? I would stick with Prescott. You're running the ball great. You mentioned Ezekiel Elliott, leads the NFL in rushing as a rookie, had 134 yards yesterday. Literally, the game plan is turn around, give it to Zeke, have your great offensive line create holes for him, and Dak Prescott just dink and dunk it down the field for 8-9 yards an attempt. Why would you go away from that? I think I would stick with it.
Yeah, I think with Dak, you add the aspect that I think they benefit one another. Ezekiel, so much of what he can do holds people in the box and allows Dak to throw more, and I think so much of what Dak can do on the perimeter as a runner can open up things for Ezekiel in the same sense. So I definitely think they're probably more of a dynamic offense. I just find it very hard to believe that, Jerry Jones' favorite person in the world is Tony Romo. And I find it hard to believe that they're not going to want to put him in. But I agree with you. I think Dak is, like you said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So it remains to be seen how that's gonna go down, really.
Yeah, they're going back to Romo, which I guess you can't really complain with because of his capability when he's done for the last decade. But I would still stick with Dak. I mean, he's been so impressive, even as a rookie. He adds the element with his escapability to run around the pocket. He's playing well. He's not turning the ball over, and the Cowboys are playing well with him. So they're 2-0 without Dez Bryant, and they looked just as good without him. So why go away from Dak Prescott? I just don't agree with it.
I get what you mean. All right, moving to the last 3 games of yesterday. The Bills defeated the Rams on the road 30-19 in the game that many people thought was going to be kind of even, same kind of teams, not amazing offense.
I liked the Bills in this game. I picked them on Friday.
I think I picked the Rams only because the way it's been playing. You know what I mean? I mean, Case Keenum again didn't have a horrible day. In the way you look at it, I mean, not perfect. 271. He had 2 picks. Again, not an amazing day. 72 yards on the ground for Gurley. More of an efficient day over on the Buffalo Bills side. Tyrod Taylor only 124 yards passing, but he added 2 scores and then 28 yards on the ground. 150 yards rushing from LaShawn McCoy. 73 yards receiving from their tight end Charles Clay. Kenny Britt had a good day. 75 yards receiving for him. Again, this is kind of one of those games. Good defenses, not great offenses. Really, kind of you got to get what you're going to get. Gurley fumbled twice, only lost one of them though, but that's been an issue with him sometimes. When he really gets going, this is kind of one of the more boring games of the week. Not amazing numbers on offense, yet they still scored 30 points. That's just kind of a game that you would kind of think of between the Bills and the Rams. I mean, the Bills are currently in second place in their division behind the aforementioned New England Patriots, and as of right now, Seattle's in first place over the Los Angeles Rams, but Seattle had a bye this week.
Yes. So they will be back next week playing
see
games.
How that goes. Moving to the last 2 games of the week, the Chargers and the Raiders. The Chargers lost another just close one. The Raiders came out on top. First win at home this year. They won this one 34-31. The Chargers came back just clawing in there every bit of the kind of game that you think that they deserve to win. And of the wacky ways in the last 4 weeks they've lost, whether it's giving up a 14-point lead, a 13-point lead, or turning the ball over late in a game, they muffed.
They found a new
the
one.
Snap on a field goal. They found a new one.
The holder pulled a Tony Romo and dropped the ball on a
see,
potential game-tying field goal with 2
now
minutes
with
left.
Romo's, that was a low snap. It was in the ground. I understand why he dropped it. If anything, I think, I'm not going to get into that. That's old. Well, it's old news. I think, that was a bad snap. This one was right in his hands.
Yeah.
Like the poor guy, he's right in his hands, man. It's just, man, they are finding ways to lose.
Yes, the Chargers have had a lead in the fourth quarter in all 5 games, and they sit at 1-4. They're like the Giants last year. They just can't finish games. They have leads, and yet they just can't hold on to them. They're just, like you said, finding ways to lose. And the Raiders now at 4-1 look like a really, really good team.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense is playing a lot better.
Yeah,
I realized yesterday Phillip Rivers kind of lit them up. 359 and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But the 2 weeks before that, Tennessee and Baltimore, the Raiders defense on the road played really well.
Yeah, no, what I have been saying about their defense is when they get their young guys back healthy. Carl Joseph, his first game, I believe, he logged a sack. He logged an interception in his first game. I mean, it was one of those kind of punt interceptions. Rivers very much overthrew him. But, when they get these young guys back, I think they can play well. And the Chargers, on the other hand, we'll see next week if they can find another way to lose. They're 0-3 on the road. Moving to the last game of the night. Last night was one close to Ben's heart, and the Packers taking on the Giants. Man, did this game last forever. No one wanted to convert a third down. 23-16 in favor of the Packers, who are currently now 3-1 on the year after their bye week this last week. Man, I'll tell you what, Ben.
Yes.
Your defense is good.
I like our
Packers defense is very
run
good.
defense.
Yes.
What surprised me last night was going into the game. You look at the Packers secondary, and it really worried me. You have Sam Shields, starting cornerback, out with a concussion. He's been out since week 1. He got injured week 1 at Jacksonville. You have our other cornerback is the second-year guy out of Arizona State, Demarius Randall. He was also out of the game last night. So you have 2 backup cornerbacks against Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, and Victor Cruz. And before the game, I'm thinking, man, this looks like one of those shootout games because I don't think the Packers can stop Eli Manning and this Giants receivers because our defensive backs are not there. They're injured. But then you look at the game, Eli Manning throws for 199 yards. Odell Beckham goes for 56 yards and a touchdown, which he got literally in the last couple of minutes. And they can't run the ball. They stop him only 43 yards rushing. So you mentioned the Packers defense playing really well, which has not been their strong suit the last few years. To me, it's a great win for Green Bay, but I'm still not sold on the Packers. Their offense it does not seem the same, even with Jordy Nelson returning. Aaron Rodgers still kind of struggling, 259, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I guess the one thing you can look on as a positive is the Packers did not get sacked at all. Aaron Rodgers didn't even get sacked.
All day to throw.
And Eddie Lacy did get injured. He left with an ankle injury, but he was running really well before that, 11 carries for 81 yards.
Yeah, he was moving.
So I guess it's a good win, but we'll see next week is going to be a big game. The Packers are hosting the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game.
A really good game.
What I think was beneficial for the Packers last night is the Giants couldn't run the ball. They just could not run the ball. So I think by purely of that nature, they were sitting back like, okay, throw on us because you're not going to run on us. And they were, routinely running 6 defensive backs, 5 defensive backs throughout the night. I think that was really beneficial for them was, run on us because we know you can't do it. So we're going to be prepared for you to pass on us. And, I mean, what I mentioned, though, about their third down efficiency, 4 for 13 for the Giants, 9 for 19 for the Packers. You're right. The offense is still missing something. It's still off. We don't know quite what it is. They just look off. And, I believe you are correct. Until they really figure out what that is, I don't know if they can continue being the Packers of, yesteryear. I think, they have to really address that. And when they do, then, we'll, and if for you, hopefully, see the Packers of before.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens next week, a big game. So
Yes, sir.
that leads us to Monday night's game tonight. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going on the road to face a divisional foe, that is the Carolina Panthers. They will be without Cam Newton. He will miss tonight's game with a concussion, so insert Derek Anderson, a guy who's had a lot of starting experience in his career, so I guess you can say he's one of the better backups in the league.
I would if he was my backup, I would feel confident in him.
Yeah, exactly. A guy who's been experienced, been around for a lot of years. So the Panthers sitting at 1-3 as well as the Buccaneers. Seems like the Buccaneers' Week 1 win on the road against Atlanta, kind of a fluke now. I thought that was a great win Week 1. Now the Buccaneers have really just fallen off since then.
Yeah.
I got to think that Carolina finds a way to win tonight. They cannot afford to go 1-4. They lost 1 game all of last year.
Yeah,
Well, 2 if you count the Super Bowl. But they've already lost 3 within 4 weeks. They cannot afford to go 1-4. I got to think they find a way to win tonight. I realized I said that last week and then got killed.
You did.
But I think they got to find a way to win tonight, and I think they do.
I think they need to find a way to win tonight. I don't know if they will. I always look at division games differently. Teams always just play one another differently. They know the team better than anybody else other than the teams in the division. And then the Buccaneers are weird. Sometimes they just blow, and sometimes they can put up offensive numbers. I think the Panthers are going to win this game. I do. I think they're more of a sound team. I think their defense is a lot better than it has been looking. They released Ben Benwickery this week. I believe on Friday or Thursday, or they released him. I want to say Friday. They just released him. So, that's a starting corner there that's gone. They have younger guys behind him that Rivera said there's kind of a roadblock there, and they wanted, the younger guys that were capable of playing to get some time. So they released Benwickery. I'm sure he'll get picked up by somebody, but I think the Panthers have a better defense than the Buccaneers, and I think their offense is finally going to start maybe making some noise. Again, Cam's out, but Derek Anderson had played well. He came in and only threw two touchdowns last week. So I don't know. It's probably not going to be the most entertaining game. I'll tell you that.
These Monday night games so far have not been really entertaining. I guess the
Not
last
since
week,
really.
last week with the Giants and the Vikings on paper looked like it, but the Vikings absolutely dominated them. It really wasn't even a competitive game. So Monday night game has not been the best so far this season, I feel like.
Not yet, at least. I mean, the Steelers game on week 1 wasn't a bad game. I mean, it was entertaining if you like offense. It wasn't a super competitive game. Next week would be a better Monday night game. I believe it is Jets Cardinals. No, that would have been better last year. That would have been a good one last year, but that remains to be seen. Let's take our first break. We'll come back and we're going to talk baseball. And we're going to tell you about the games that are going to happen today and just let you know who clinched yesterday and who might clinch today. So we'll do that real quick and we'll come back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we are back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast talking about baseball. We have the divisional series going on right now in the American League and the National League. We had one American League team clinch last night. That was the Toronto Blue Jays, as I mentioned. They sweep the Texas Rangers, who had the best record in the American League. Really, really surprising there. Toronto wins it 7-6 in extra innings. They had a walk-off error to win the game. Josh Donaldson comes home to win and clinch. So Toronto beats Texas in the divisional series yet again for a second straight year. So obviously hope to see if there's a brawl next year when these two teams meet.
I was going to say, and who had the error throw?
Yeah. So
Odor did.
Little ironic there, but definitely. And then yesterday we had the Nationals come out on top over the Dodgers 5-2. So that series is tied up 1-1. So we have Game 3 tonight. Definitely a pivotal game.
Is Game 3 tonight?
Yeah.
I thought they had a travel day.
No.
Oh, they had to speed it up because of the postponed game.
Yes.
Oh man, yeah.
So they will have Game 3 tonight. A
In
best of 5
LA.
series. Game 3, very, very important. So we'll have to see who comes out in that. It's Gio Gonzalez going for the Nats against Kenta Maeda, the Japanese old rookie for the Dodgers.
The old fella. Yeah, I mean, they split the series. This has probably been the more competitive series. Well,
it's been the only series where one team has not won every game.
Yeah,
each team has won a game.
It's definitely been competitive in that sense. I still want to say that the Giants Cubs they have been insanely competitive in those two games. They could have gone either way. They just happened to go in the Cubs' favor. But I'm with you. Yeah, but the Dodgers take them on tonight in their first playoff game of the year, within the home of the Dodgers there down in Chavez Ravine in L.A. A game that was postponed, just like on Saturday, the Dodgers, the Red Sox and the Indians are facing off today. Clay Buchholz taking on Josh Tomlin there. Currently, it is 2-0 in favor of Cleveland. They can win and head to face the Blue Jays.
Well, actually, the Blue Jays would head to face them.
Well, you know what I mean. They move on to the face of the Blue
yes.
Jays if the Indians can take this one tonight. This is going to be an interesting game. It is in Fenway. Again, that's why I look at the Red Sox going home and the Giants going home. I think the Giants and the Red Sox are both of these kind of teams. Now, the Red Sox didn't have as close of a game as the Giants did in both, not so much on Saturday, but in the first game, say. I think some of those games, when the Giants play those close games, if they play them at home, I feel like sometimes they could really have won those games. They just do different things at home. And of course, that's teams in general. But I think the Red Sox take this one. I think they have the edge from Buchholz there pitching. I think being back in Fenway, I mean, that is... Baseball doesn't always have the home field advantage, quote-unquote, that like football or maybe basketball does. But I think the Red Sox are as close as you can get to a home field advantage when it comes to baseball. And I don't mean the stadium itself, where a home field advantage is, a pitching stadium or a hitting stadium. I think purely the fans there are really responsible for that sometimes. Now, I do believe that, funny enough, a park with a, 60-foot wall is a hitter's park. Is always funny to me. If you relate it to, right field where the wall is 2.5 feet tall, fall over it while you're walking. It's so short. But I want to give it to the Red Sox. Buchholz, I think, is in need of he needs a good start. He really does. He needs to win this one. Obviously, it's a must-win for the Red Sox. Otherwise, the best team in the AL behind the Rangers is gone too. And it's a wacky thing with the playoffs, man.
I have no faith in Buchholz. He's been really, really shaky all year. I think Tomlin has the pitching matchup for the Tribe.
Okay.
But the Red Sox, the best offensive team in baseball, got shut out their last game against Cleveland 6-0 behind David Price. And in the first game, they lost 5-4. I got to think the Red Sox can score at least something at home and win a game. I think it's going to be tough to beat the Indians 3 in a row. They're an experienced team, a good leader with manager Terry Francona, a guy who knows Fenway Park in Boston really well, having won a couple World Series there.
Yes, sir.
So I think Cleveland has the advantage in the series still, obviously. But I think the Red Sox don't get swept. I think they win at least the first one here at home. And then that takes us to another team trying to avoid elimination. That's the Giants tonight against the Cubs. The Giants are down 2-0, but they have the best post-game pitcher ever in Madison Bumgarner on the mound tonight against Jake Arrieta. So we have, on paper, another great pitching matchup out in Frisco.
Yeah, I mean, Mad Bum, like you said, best postseason pitcher in the history of the game as it looks currently, at this point of his career. The Giants aren't unfamiliar to elimination games. They are literally undefeated in elimination games in the last 3 goes of them. 3 years of these matchups. I believe they're 9-0, something like that. They are at home. Now, it's different. In 2012, they went down same way, 2-0 in the division series against the Reds and came back and won every game they needed to, 3 straight, and ended up winning that one. This isn't the Reds, though. This is arguably the best team in how long? The Cubs have played the way this year, 103 wins. They're pretty good, and they don't have a scrub pitching either. Arrieta as your third-game starter. I mean,
He's the reigning Cy Young Award winner, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, and then, the Giants, again, they have Bumgarner. He just knows how to win. I just, not even as a fan, it's hard to count this team out, especially when you have Bumgarner going. So I want to give it to the Giants tonight. I mean, they need it. They absolutely need it. I don't know. I mean, realistically, as a Giants fan, I don't always say the Giants are going to win. But when Bumgarner pitches, it's hard for me to go against him, So I'm going to say the edge goes to Bumgarner purely because, it's the postseason. If this game was if this was a August game, I'd say no.
I agree with you. I think the Giants will win one. I think the team that scores first will probably win tonight. It's been that way the first 2 games of the series, which has been the Cubs. So
yeah.
And then you could
say that in the game 1.
You would fast forward to Tuesday, say the Giants win tonight. It'd be John Lackey versus Matt Moore. I'd probably give the edge to the Cubs there, and I think they'd win tomorrow. So I'll give the Giants tonight with Mad Bum. I expect a low-scoring game. Like I said, I think the first team to score wins. Probably the first team to 2 definitely wins. But we'll have to wait and see. The Cubs, like you said, 103 wins. Probably the best team, in my eyes, in the last few years of all of baseball. So
yeah, Matt Moore is always really up and down. Personally, I think it's kind of that'll be an interesting matchup. I think Lackey is very hot and cold, so I think that'll be a very interesting matchup. So I think if the Giants win tonight, all hands on deck. I think there's no reasonable expectation for the series anymore. So we'll have to go from there and really see. But tomorrow we could possibly have the ALCS set and one of 2 teams for the NLCS set. So I will update you on that tomorrow, of course.
Interesting for tomorrow's matchup. Obviously, we're going to be having a Game 4 between Washington and L.A. The Dodgers have announced 19-year-old Mexican phenom Julio Urias as their Game 4 starter. Interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting. It looks like they have a lot of just nice. What's the word I'm looking for? A lot of. They believe in the kid. can't think of the word. But
I guess you can say with him having a lot of potential, but was not too great earlier this year. Seemed to be overpowered by a lot of these hitters.
Yeah.
So now you're going to throw him in what could be a decisive game, either an elimination game or a clincher game out here in Game 4. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I think that's a little tough.
hey, they must believe in him, I guess.
Well, of course they do.
Yeah. All right, well, let's take our last break. We'll come back, and we will quickly cover some of the notable falls and rises of ranked teams this week, and we'll head out of here for the day. So we'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Going to be ending the show right here and right now with college football, week number 6. A lot of notable games. Definitely the big storyline is how Houston's college football playoff chances are gone. Houston,
They're gone.
we have a problem. They lose 46-40 to Navy. That zone triple option, whatever you want to call it, just lit up the Cougs on Saturday.
Yeah, they lost a big one, and yeah, they are currently 6th. The AP poll is not going to be out until around when we're done with the show, so they had to hold off. Normally it's up on Sundays. They had to hold off because there's a game on Sunday due to a postponement due to the weather.
Hurricane Matthew out in the south. Did you see that Notre Dame NC State game?
I saw some of it.
It was literally the field. Was
Yeah.
literally a swamp.
You know what I thought was really funny is the snap was fumbled and the ball fell on the ground, and typically footballs bounce or roll around. It just died.
stops.
Just stopped.
Notre Dame loses that game to NC State 10-3. Notre Dame with their
can't-
4th loss
I
already.
can't
but
blame Notre Dame on
You
that
can't
one.
blame. I mean, the weather.
Dude kicked a field goal, and just a wall of water came up, and he still made it, like knuckleballed through there. It was crazy.
That was definitely an entertaining game to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the running backs tried to cut, and then just water's just splashing everywhere.
Yeah, or they'll cut and they just fall down. It's like
That
a
was,
slip and
and
slide out
they're
there.
getting tackled, and they're sliding at least 5 yards downfield.
I love that. That's fun.
great. You know, it'd be definitely really fun to play in.
Oh, yeah. I
So
would love it.
That was definitely the big upset of the weekend. I don't think Michigan had any trouble. They win 78-0 on the road against Rutgers, so
Yeah.
they did quite well. To me, the big takeaway was Washington's performance on the road against Oregon. I realized Oregon misses Chip Kelly so much. And
Back-to-back
Washington-
losses for Oregon.
Yeah, Washington with a great performance last week against Stanford, who had disappointing performance against Washington State. Alex, I know you're happy about that one. They got blown
Yeah,
out.
I was going to mention it.
By Washington State. But Washington win on the road at Autzen Stadium, a tough place to play in Oregon. They win 70-21.
Yeah.
Jake Browning, the sophomore quarterback, throws for 6 touchdowns, runs for a couple of more. I mean, honestly, he's up there in that Heisman list in my eyes.
No, he really is. Him, Lamar Jackson, even with their losses, Greg Ward would have been if, I think he's going to drop a bit with this big loss. But, no, yeah, he's definitely up there. Some notable games. Friday we had a matchup. Clemson did what they were supposed to do, beat Boston College 56-10. Boise State continued their win as now I believe still the lone team in the Mountain West. I think somebody dropped out this week over New Mexico 49-21. Bama won a closer than one would expect game over Arkansas 49-30, regardless of the fact Arkansas was ranked at the time. Ohio State 38-17 over Indiana. As you said, huge game from Jake Browning, 70-21 in favor of Washington. Houston with their huge loss, like you said. One of the better matchups of the week, like competitive-wise, Texas A&M, did defeat Tennessee 45-38.
We saw the same thing with Tennessee. They go down 14 points at halftime. They come back to tie it there at the end.
And then they just can't.
And then
they can't
A&M
hang
just
it.
win it in overtime. So now you have Tennessee going next week to face Alabama. So they could be looking at 5-2.
Yes, sir.
So
Florida State defeating Miami 20-19 in what is an upset for the Seminoles.
Miami gets their extra point block to tie the game.
Yeah.
Heartbreaker for Mark Richt and the U.
Yes. I mean, it was pretty tragic to watch. I was going back and forth. Like you said, Washington State did defeat Stanford 42-16. This is a lot of demons that they let out of their closet from last year. They were beating them on Halloween last year, and they missed the field goal to clear the game up from inside the 20. It was a close one. I always know those are hard, though, because they're so angled in college football. But you had 357 yards passing and 4 scores from Luke Falk. The team, again, has been rushing well, 101 yards on the ground, coming off last week's 6 rushing touchdowns in a game. It's the first time they've done that in a long time. Very impressive there for the Cougars, who are now 3-2. And they're 2-0 in the Pac-12. Virginia Tech winning one over North Carolina, who were 34-3, which, I mean,
Pretty lopsided there.
25th over the 17th team. You don't expect the 17th team to only score 3, but that's what happened. LSU in Florida was postponed, of course, because of the hurricane. Texas lost to Oklahoma 45-40 in what was a closer matchup for a team that's ranked in Oklahoma, who has been having trouble this year. But
I expected Oklahoma to win a lot more convincingly than 45-40.
Exactly.
Texas, yet again, their defense gives up 40-plus points. They just look terrible. Charlie Strong getting fired, Alex?
It's going to happen.
Before the end of the season, or what do you think, end of the year? I think it's going to happen as well.
I think it's going to happen before the end of the year. I think they keep having. I mean, they're 2-3. They're 0-2 within the division, the conference. Excuse me. I mean, something's got to change because they're not winning any games.
No, and obviously this is a great name. I love this name. Samaje Perine from Oklahoma rushes for 214 yards and 2 scores. Baker Mayfield goes for almost 400 yards. They're just giving up a ton of yards. If I'm Texas, here's what I'm honestly doing. I'm firing Charlie Strong, and I'm literally emptying out every tuition of that student fees and giving it to Chip Kelly and bringing him back to college. Chip Kelly is a college coach, and he can sure recruit. Look at what he did. I'd go with Kelly.
Okay.
Les Miles has proven that he can't really coach offense. He's a great defensive guy. Offense is the sort of the trendier way with football now. Even in the NFL, it seems like every new coach is an offensive-minded coach. I don't think Chip Kelly's made for the NFL. He's made for college. Look at what he did with Oregon. You give him the assets that Texas has, I think he would thrive there. Tom Herman has been kind of vocal, really wanting this Texas job, but he has a similar style, so maybe they'll go there if they do fire Charlie Strong. But I think Charlie Strong gets a bad rep, and I don't think a lot of it is his fault. I've talked about this with you before. But I feel like with Texas, what they were 5 years ago was, when you look at recruiting stance, was them and Oklahoma really competing for everybody. Now look at the state of Texas. You have Texas Longhorns, you have Houston, you have TCU, you have Texas A&M, you have Baylor. All 5 of those have been ranked at one point this season. You can even throw in Texas Tech maybe. So you have 6 schools just in the state alone that are vying and competing for recruits, and then you have Oklahoma just, a few miles away, so you can really throw in 7 there. So 7 top schools all competing for recruits in that state alone. It's harder to get these top recruits. 5 years ago, everyone was going to Texas or Oklahoma. Now you have so many tough schools in that state alone where everybody's sort of dividing everything up.
I mean, I don't know if Chip Kelly is willing to leave the NFL yet, but I don't think he is. Bad idea.
But I would. Or if I'm USC, I realize USC did beat Colorado, which was a ranked opponent. They beat them 21-17. But the Clay Helton experiment is not working out in L.A. And USC is an elite coaching job, as is Texas. So I think you're going to see a lot of money thrown at Tom Herman, Les Miles. But I would bring back Chip Kelly. I think he's the ideal college coach. And he's had success. Think about what he did with Oregon.
That's very true. And in closing out the games of the weekend, you just mentioned USC. Arizona did lose to 24th ranked Utah, 36-23 in a Pac-12 matchup. Before we go, I did want to mention, you said a name you like. A name I like in college football, defensive lineman for the Washington State Cougars, Hercules Mataafa.
Great name. Hercules, and he a defensive lineman, of course.
They get it. They have a there's a sign almost at every game that says "You're bad. You're one bad Mataafa."
That's classic.
Yeah, I like it. But that is college football for the week, and of course tomorrow I'll probably update you on the AP polls real quick at the beginning of the show, since they will be up just after the show ends. But until then, again, I'll be back tomorrow. Ben will not be. He abandons me on Tuesdays because he thinks learning is important.
It is very important.
Okay, nerd. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Anyway, we'd like to thank you guys for listening. For Anthony, because he's not here until Wednesday, as always, I'm Alex.
I'm Ben.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
And I'll be back Wednesday with Anthony and Alex in the studio.
Woo! And we'll probably have some CS matchups, as painful as it sounds, ready to go. So, until then, I'd like to thank you guys for listening, and we will see you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.